Hello, everyone, and welcome in. Today's talk is going to be on vintage bolo ties from my collection. And as you can tell by my hands, I couldn't decide what turquoise rings to wear today, so I just kind of piled them on. And some other Native American treasures that I've loved for a very long time. But this is one of my favorites. We're not here to talk about my rings today, but this is for sure one of my favorites. Look at that ring. Just absolutely incredible. Been with me for a long time. I love the stones and the design. And then here's a couple of the other older ones and some more vintage ones. Anyways, so I piled my rings on today because, like I said, I couldn't decide what to wear. I want to thank all of you for coming in. And I want to kind of just give you some baseline information on some of the turquoise that are used in Native American jewelry. This one is a rough rock that was pulled out of the ground, and this is quite old. I believe that this was mined in the late 1930s, 1940s, according to the previous owner. I am going to do some additional research on this type of turquoise, but why I'm having trouble identifying it is where the stone is polished, the rest of it, where the matrix is unpolished, so it's going to make it very difficult for me to identify the kind of turquoise that this is. So there's this one, and I'll do future videos on this, but this was just a great rough stone. And then there's this one, which I bring on just to show you some of the rough stones that I've been able to pull together out of my collection. And this one had a lot of people stumped, and I wouldn't show dealers and I wouldn't show people the back of the stone because this was mined in the late 20s and into the 1930s. And you can see where that very fine layer of turquoise had grown onto this matrix or this mother host stone. Very, very, very thin layer of turquoise. And that's why a lot of times when we see a finished stone like this, you'll see that they back it in another stone to make it stronger and more resilient, both in cutting it and polishing it, and then wearability. This stone is magnificent as well. I'll set that down there. We'll get back to this one. So when I've questioned dealers about this, they weren't really sure what mine this was out of, and I would never show them the back sticker. So when you pronounce certain things, you have to roll your R's, and the L's become a Y. So this is Cerrillos, and it's R, which is R, like a cat. Like you're petting a cat on the head. What a sexy sound, a sexy turquoise. So Cerrillos, Cerrillos. And when you turn the back of it, there it is. Cerrillos. Cerrillos turquoise. I love that sexiness. Like I said, it sounds like a cat you're petting on the head. Who wouldn't purr when you see this turquoise? I'm sure most of you are dying laughing right now, but it's true. This was $2.25 way back in the day. Look how early this label is, this paper label. And that is a gigantic piece of Cerrillos turquoise. Unbelievable color, and what a beauty. Slight fracture here, but that's, like I said, such a very thin layer of turquoise. And that's why they back them in a secondary stone. So when you see that, that definitely is to reinforce the turquoise and to make sure that it's highly wearable and won't break or fracture. Turquoise is very soft, so I loved this as a specimen stone. And look at the color. It looks like you're viewing the earth from an airplane, like you're looking down at the earth, and whether that be water and trees or little islands, but look at how heavenly that really is. A blue-green, a lime green, and a turquoise blue. And again, this has oxidized over time. So that color probably wasn't this color back when it was originally mined. Because if turquoise has copper or even silver deposits in it, it will, quote, oxidize, or even the silver might tarnish in a way. But oxidation happens with the oils of your skin and also just air. This one, I've yet to figure out what mine this is, but this was a very early stone. Look how gigantic it is. It would make the most beautiful cuff bracelet. So there's this one, and then there's this one. And I'm already getting sidetracked to show you these amazing stones. I'm going to do some additional research on both of these and try and figure out the mines that these came from. I have some idea, but we're not going to get into specifics until I figure that out. Now, you might ask yourself, what is the most valuable turquoise? Well, Persian turquoise is quite valuable. This is out of a book, and this is Lander. This is Lander Blue Turquoise. Lander Blue is some of the rarest turquoise that has ever existed. In this book, it breaks it down, and it shows you basic information of the mine, and that it was considered technically a hat mine, which means that they basically could put a hat over the mine to cover it. And I believe it was mined out within a year of the claim. I think that's what this information gives, is with Lander Blue, it was mined out within a year. And I marked this in the book to show you that is Lander Blue. Look how small the polka dots. Let me zoom in on these for you, so then you can get a really good feeling what Lander Blue looks like. Some stones look like Lander Blue, but this little polka dotted, almost a spider web matrix around these little tiny dots of blue, that's Lander Blue. So don't ever forget this, because this is the most valuable of all turquoise as of this recording. And maybe in the future they'll find a more rare turquoise and we can replace this. But rarity's sake, especially in Native American jewelry, this is the rarest. And then I say the other mines, yes, it's important to identify the mines, but you don't have to get too carried away, because the value is, I guess I would say the value is subjective at times, but Lander Blue is the one that commands a gigantic amount of money. And if you look up Lander Blue stones and you see authentic stones online, they're an awful lot of money. They can be, up to $1,000 for one stone. This is more of a commercially produced bolo tie, and that's what this video is about. When you see these kind of end caps or terminals or finials, these are commercially produced. You can see a seam. These are nickel silver. They're not sterling. This is a strong indicator that this was made for the tourist trade. And this was definitely made for the tourist trade. I would guess this one would be around probably around the 1950s. It is sterling silver. Unsure of the turquoise mine that these came from, but these are natural turquoise. Look how they have oxidized. So this one is a more seafoam green, and then these lean a more yellow and very mellow color that is very subdued. And the peace dollar in the center here is from 1922, and it is an authentic peace dollar that's bezel set. Beautiful depiction. When you set coins in jewelry, they basically lose their value as a coin, because even if it's a gold coin, it's still worth more than the metal, don't get me wrong. But when you put a bezel around it, then you'll have a wear pattern on the coin, and you will also have a wear kind of a halo around the coin. So when you see set coins in jewelry, or you take a coin out of a bezel, a lot of times that really diminishes the value of a coin. Now, if it's Carson City or a more rare silver dollar, then you're into bigger money, even if it is set as jewelry. If you get into a very rare coin, meaning if the mintage is very low. Enough of a lecture series about coins, because I'm by no means an expert, but this as a bolo tie, sterling silver, and every time you see this Bennett pat pending, that's because this is the mechanism. And then here's the signature down here, sterling, and then it looks like a little S mark. Haven't really looked that up. Don't really need to, because it's not going to really control the value on this bolo tie. I would say value on this one would be around 165, maybe 185. Very lovely. I really like the craft. I like the balance of these silver dots and then the three stones in the bottom. Very well done. good craft on that. Not excellent. Oh, and then, of course, the leather cord itself that then contains this slide and then the double terminal at the end. So you can kind of see the whole piece together. And thank you so much for joining me. I hopped right into this and I didn't thank you. I feel bad about that. So thank you very much. On to this one. This is Zuni. And this is from the heart of the 1950s. This is mother of pearl. This is also tortoiseshell, red coral, mother of pearl, black onyx, and turquoise. None of the stones in this were treated, and you can kind of see that dark chocolate brown of the tortoiseshell inlay here. Of course, tortoiseshell is no longer used, and we can understand why. And on the back of this, unsigned, but definitely Zuni, again from the heart of the 1950s. I think on this one, because the scale is slightly larger than most, the glowing mother of pearl and the overall craft and design, I would say maybe around $200, $250 for this one. And then the finials on this one, you can see that these are commercially produced. People are having a tendency to call these Navajo pearls. Well, they wouldn't be Navajo pearls if they're on a Zuni bolo tie. These are in fact bench beads, and you can see that raised seam there. These are not Navajo pearls, and I will do a whole separate video to educate you on what Navajo pearls actually technically are. I will bring on Navajo pearls out of my collection and then show you the commercially produced bench beads. These are sterling silver terminals or finials, again a braided cord, and that classic lever that you pick this up to adjust the cord, and then you push this back down. I've always worn my drops more asymmetrical, so let me open that back up now that I fidget with it. Thank you again so much for bearing with me. I really appreciate all of you, but I've always worn my bolo ties asymmetrical with the drops. I just think it looks far classier, but that's just me. You're allowed to do whatever you want when you wear your jewelry. Just because I do something doesn't make it right for everybody. I have always said that. This one is interesting. I did write a note on this one because I needed to remember this is Angela Lee. She is a Navajo silversmith that's well documented. The turquoise stones in this, I was a little stumped, so I will leave out the mine on this one until I have a turquoise expert look at these. They were reminiscent of two different mines, but like I said, I'm not going to get into that. It is signed underneath here, but again, notice the mechanism that's signed Bennett. So when you see that, don't think the bolo tie is made by Bennett. That's the mechanism here. That's a Bennett mechanism, and patent pending because the patent was pending specifically on this nickel silver mechanism. These are seldomly sterling. The reason why they did nickel is because it had that spring kind of mechanism that would then hold shut. So these are nickel silver. So if you go to test these and they don't test to sterling, that's okay because they're 99.9% of the time they're not. And then the maker on this is the Angela Lee. So sometimes when people see this, they say, oh, it's a Bennett bolo tie. No, that's the mechanism that was used to make, it was a universal mechanism for these bolo ties. On this one, I would say $285 to $350 for value. And most of you have been asking me, please go over values in your video. So I don't mind doing that on most of these things. Again, sterling silver terminals, and you can see that bead is in fact just a bench bead because it's hollow. Let me get some of this dust and dirt out of the way from the leather. A lot of these leather pieces are very dry rotted from time to time because if you don't wear them, they will dry out. But anyways, this is dented and it does affect the value a little bit. You can fix that. I've always just left them alone. And notice how I've left the silver oxidize and tarnish over time. So you have this depth of surface. Some people may polish that and that's okay, but I don't polish them because I think it gives such a beautiful and warm finish, an authentic finish, to show that this is in fact vintage, to show in fact that this is old. I've always loved this flower, leaf, and tendril design. And then look how they stamped this outside frame. And they put very classy stamp work around the outside. Attention to detail. And those bezels are just beautiful. Serrated bezel wire, so you can tell that that's machine-made bezel wire, but the rest of it is completely hand-constructed by Angela Lee. Again, a documented Navajo silversmith, beautifully executed, and wonderful stones. I usually wouldn't like 4 stones. I don't like even numbers, but then look, she broke it up with 3 flowers, so it's a total of like 7 elements. Another person may not notice that, but I sure noticed it. What a balance of form. I would have put 5 stones and then maybe 2 flowers, but it still would have been 7, right? So Angela did beautiful work, and you can find her work online from time to time. When you're lucky, you can find it. These two are both Navajo, and I don't want to talk too much about either one of these. You can see, I guess why I show you these together, you can see the craft on this one is slightly lacking. You can see that this was very quick. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can tell this is tourist trade. It gets a little bit clumsy in through here. It gets a little bit unrefined, and that's not early craft that would be crude or more primitive. That's just a quick get it in and get it out. This one is better in craft, so I like to show a good version and then a better version. You could see that the metal is more finished in this. I like to give comparisons to my viewers who aren't familiar with the craft ideals, so I think this delves pretty deep to show you side by side 2 Navajo bolo ties. We'll go down towards the end of this one. What I liked about this is it used squash blossom drops, and those are original to this. So I loved this flower form and then a squash blossom here that then holds this beautiful turquoise stone with almost a natural silver. I believe that would be native silver inside of that. Could be pyrite, but I think that's more in the native silver. I'll have to take a closer look with a loupe to see. Could still be pyrite, but look at the finials. Those squash blossom finials on the end, really beautiful, and I love how elongated and tapered those are. So the whole design made a lot of sense, made a lot of sense, and very elegant. I just kind of got lost here with this form. A little bit not careful. So it made me think this was produced slightly quicker to get it out. But this is beautiful. I still think it's worth around $200. But this one, I think, is worth slightly more. Look at the way the stones are cut and how they planned these natural red coral to, again, be serrated bezel set. Those are commercially produced bezel wire, and then look at the rope twist, these tiny little granules, the attention to detail to get this design asymmetrically off to one side, but be completely balanced with this very graphic, very beautifully done, ridged design. Again, more stamp work on the outside, more ribbon twist here, more stamping here. That's fantastic. And look at the overall shape. Very well considered. They didn't just do a rectangle. They made it more dynamic. They made it more powerful by increasing the size here and decreasing the size here. Very directional. And when you come down to the finials on this one, again, more refined because of the stamping and the fluting on these saucer-shaped beads. Again, these are bench beads. These aren't Navajo pearls. They are bench beads. They're machine stamped and then likely machine soldered. Sometimes these are soldered by hand. But these terminals and finials, again, very elegant, solid sterling silver. We'll go back up to this. I don't think this was signed unless that was the signature. I'll have to look closer later. Makers on these, it's not that it wouldn't matter, but on something like this, I would still say it would be worth between $285 and maybe $325. That's being a little bit, I think, a little bit aggressive, but very thick silver, very elegantly formed. So I wanted to show kind of a comparison, and I'm not taking anything away from this one, but it just is, it goes to show you that sometimes if you hold out and don't spend money on something that is a little bit sloppy, you'll get a better one. I've always said go after the best you can afford, and that's kind of how I've grown this collection. But I still loved the one turquoise one on the left. I'll get into, I guess I'll do these next because they're on my desk and ready to go. These are Zuni. And the one is very much so, I pronounce it dishta, and I think it's die, and then it could be, I think it's dishta, Dishta, Zuni. And I have a brooch, and you might ask yourself, what is that? Well, I have a brooch that I bought years ago at an estate sale, and I wasn't going to show a pin, but I'll show this one. I paid $40 for it back in the day. And this is, in fact, a Dishta original, Dishta. And please forgive my pronunciation if that's not correct, but it is signed on the back. And it's Zuni, like I said. And this one is older, but you could wear it as a pendant. Why I show this is the style of inlay that this Zuni family of makers was actually using, but you can see the craft and the skill is very parallel. This one is slightly different because the stones are cut and beveled and then inset in the silver, and they call this a fish scale design. We also called it turquoise mosaic back in the day because it is in fact these silver cells that are then actually inlaid with turquoise stones. Be careful because they have done reproductions of this with acrylic inlay. So just be really mindful and careful to make sure that you're actually looking at stones. The mine on the stones of these, I should be discussing all of the mines, and I guess I forgot to mention the two before this because I knew what mine they were, but I get so distracted by design and craft. These are very parallel in their value. This one's slightly older than this one. Again, probably late 50s and then into the 60s on this one. Look at that shadow box where they stepped back this secondary triangular shaped wire to create such a heavy and beautifully, optically heavy and beautiful box. But look at the terminals and the finials. They even put little tiny turquoise stones that were triangular shaped on the bottom of the terminals, on the bottom of those little finials. And I thought, wow, what attention to detail as I struggled to get them to cooperate. But look how beautiful those are. Very well bezel set. It's not easy to set stones this small. Fantastic craft on that. That took more skill and more time, and beautifully constructed, really beautiful craft. Again, this is a Bennett clip here. It is not signed, but it is. And I think this is, yes, it's marked underneath, and it's clearly marked Zuni. It has a C or a G. And again, in the Dishta style, but I would consider this definitely of the family. Let's see if it's signed. No, this one was never signed because I looked under here before and I never saw a signature. So, but look at that fish scale design. Very naturalistic and very beautiful. Again, those finials are slightly more expensive. So pay attention to the small details on things. I've always been, I didn't base my collection on a name or a signature. I always based my collection on craft. And when I see craft like this and red coral, genuine turquoise, that one is, I believe that's still tortoise. It may not be. That's tortoise there. That might be, no, that's not onyx. Mother of pearl, abalone, mother of pearl, turquoise, and an inlaid eye. Look how small this is in scale, but look how grand it is in craft. Look how the craft of this to get these stones so flush set in there. That's just beautiful work. And $40 back in the day. I think this one's now worth around, for that size and that age, that one's probably worth $300 to $400, I would say on that one. But that's been with me for a long time. And I guess I get so lost in my collections as I try to gather them up to show you. But these are just classic bolo ties there again. Two more, even though I have 6 more out on my desk. You know how I feel about contemporary jewelry. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it. Let me wipe this off because I just got a fingerprint on it. I'm not a huge fan of contemporary, but boy, this sure did it for me. The second I laid my eyes on this, I just knew I had to have it. Mixed turquoise, different mines. Oh boy, I'm drawing a blank here. Definitely different mines. Lapis, there we go. The mint green, I'm drawing a blank. The purple, Sugalite, I believe, on the purple on this. Because of the age of this, people would be screaming "Charite." No, Sugalite on that one, I believe. Again, my brain freezes I don't know, when I turn these videos on. But look at these finials. So this is by David Rosales, and it's David and then Rosales. And David's work, he's very well revered. He's a contemporary silversmith. Fantastic craft on the back of his items. Signed sterling. This is just his total classic, very deco, very stylized. But look at that fine inlay work. I sometimes get confused and speechless when I see these things because I just don't know what to say about this besides it is incredibly beautiful. Very sizable as well. Perfect size, perfect craft, very well done. His retails between, I would say on something like this, between 800 and 1200 on this. And I think I paid 65 or 75, and what a great day that I had when I found this. But look how incredible the craft is. Pay attention to see that these stones actually go the full way. There's no epoxy inlay, epoxy or enamel to fill in a gap. It's so beautifully crafted and spaced with angular. How difficult would it be to get it so perfect? It'd be very difficult. And then to bypass this little detail of bypassing that stone and letting this stone be longer than the lapis. Very directional though. Very, very north, east, south, and west. Very, very directional. Love this. Very protective. It's handsome. And the back of this, see how the more contemporary bolo ties put the flat leather on the back and then the twisted towards the front. And I should have mentioned on the previous ones, I believe those are Sleeping Beauty. And I blanked out on that for a minute. On to this one. This is going to, again, probably cause a few problems, but at first glance, we think it's King Manasseh mine, and it very well may not be. We have a little bit more research to do, but this golden matrix on a green, look how gigantic this bolo tie is. It's just absolutely huge. This is by John Rennard and E.C. Ferraro, and this is sterling silver, completely handcrafted. Again, you come down to these. Look how sizable the finials are with like an almost Greek key embossed design and that silver bead at the end. The craft on this is just incredible. Leather cord is twice the size of a usual one, and it goes to this flat backed leather piece. When you see this, I don't think they started this until the very late 70s into the 80s and even into the 90s. This one, I think, is mid to late 1990s. Look at that incredible lizard in sterling silver that holds on to this gigantic turquoise stone. And what I loved about this one is turquoise normally, when they mine it and they polish it and they cut it, they try and get rid of all the matrix. On this one, it was the opposite. They focused on this incredible golden brown matrix. And then on the outskirts is that little tiny hint that, yes, I'm still a turquoise gem. Look at the size of this bolo tie. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is only a very small portion of my bolo ties, but many of you have asked me, can you please show us some of your bolo ties? Well, I always listen to the comments, and I'm here for you. I'm here for you literally 24 hours a day. And I so appreciate how far you've gotten me with my channel. I really want to continue to do this full time. I'm so incredibly blessed by all of you. I don't know what else to say besides, you know how I end this. I absolutely, positively love you very much.